Three gunshots pierced the silence of Oakwood Heights at 12 minutes past midnight. The sound echoed through a neighborhood where crime was something that happened elsewhere, not in the well-maintained homes with perfectly trimmed hedges. Just hours earlier, laughter had filled a local restaurant as friends and family gathered to celebrate Darnell Washington's 35th birthday. Champagne flowed, music played, and Keisha Johnson, his girlfriend of 3 years, beamed with pride at the surprise party she had meticulously planned. No one could have predicted that by the end of the night, Keisha would lie motionless on their living room floor, her scrubs still on from her hospital shift earlier that day. No one imagined that Darnell, a respected police officer sworn to protect the community, would stand over her body, service weapon in hand, all because she had danced with another man at his birthday celebration. In one moment of rage, 2 promising lives were destroyed forever. Could you recognize the warning signs before a relationship turns deadly? As you watch the story unfold, ask yourself, what subtle red flags were missed by friends, family, and colleagues? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's learn together how to identify dangerous patterns before it's too late. Darnell Washington was the kind of police officer communities dream of having. At 34, he had already received 2 commendations for bravery, was known for his community outreach work with at-risk youth, and had a reputation among his colleagues as someone who could defuse tense situations with just his words. His superiors had him on the fast track for promotion, seeing in him the future leadership the Oakwood Heights Police Department needed. Keisha Johnson, 29, was equally respected in her field. As an emergency room nurse at Oakwood Memorial Hospital, she was known for her steady hands during crises and her extraordinary compassion for patients and their families. She had recently been selected to lead a new trauma response team, a recognition of her exceptional skills and dedication. Her colleagues described her as the person you wanted by your side when things got chaotic. On paper, they were the perfect couple, 2 dedicated professionals serving their community, building a life together in a charming 3-bedroom home they had purchased just 6 months before the incident. Their social media accounts showed vacations, dinner dates, and volunteer work side by side. Friends envied their apparent devotion to each other. Their families had already begun hinting about marriage and grandchildren, but beneath this carefully curated image lay a relationship fracturing under the weight of jealousy, control, and fear. When first responders arrived at 12:27 that night, they encountered a scene that would haunt them for years. Keisha lay on her back in the center of the living room, 3 bullet wounds forming a tight cluster in her chest. The coffee table was overturned, a vase of fresh flowers, likely purchased for the birthday celebration, scattered across the hardwood floor. Her phone lay shattered against the wall. Darnell sat on the couch, still in his party clothes, his service weapon placed on the floor. He made no attempt to flee or resist. According to Officer James Wilson, the first to arrive, Darnell simply looked up and said, "I don't know what happened. I just snapped." His eyes were vacant, his voice monotone. Blood had splattered across his white dress shirt, the same shirt Keisha had ironed for him that morning. According to her sister, what transforms a decorated police officer into a killer? How does a loving relationship deteriorate to the point where a birthday celebration ends in murder? The answers lie in the months and years leading up to that fatal night, in text messages later recovered from Keisha's phone, in the testimonies of friends who noticed concerning behavior but remained silent, in the professional culture that may have enabled Darnell's sense of authority and control. To understand this tragedy fully, we must look beyond the crime scene and into the complex dynamics that festered behind closed doors. Because the most dangerous relationships often appear perfect until the moment they shatter completely. Darnell Washington's childhood home in East Oakwood stood in stark contrast to the upscale neighborhood where his life would eventually unravel. The youngest son of Loretta Washington, he grew up in a small 2-bedroom apartment that housed him, his mother, and his 2 younger sisters. His father, Michael Washington, a former police officer with the Oakwood Heights PD, walked out when Darnell was 8 years old, leaving behind unpaid bills and emotional wounds that would never fully heal. Loretta worked 3 jobs, daytime receptionist, evening waitress, and weekend home health aide, to keep her children fed and housed. Despite her absence, she instilled in Darnell a fierce determination to succeed. Former teachers recall a serious boy who threw himself into academics and sports with equal intensity, as if running from something or towards something with desperate purpose. By his junior year of high school, Darnell had become a star linebacker, maintaining a 3.8 GPA despite his challenging home life. His athletic prowess earned him a full scholarship to State University, where he majored in criminal justice. Classmates remember him as intensely focused, sometimes to the point of isolation. His college girlfriend, Aisha Reynolds, would later tell investigators that even then, Darnell showed signs of extreme possessiveness, though she had attributed it to his difficult childhood. After graduation, Darnell joined the Oakwood Heights Police Academy, graduating at the top of his class in 2013, following in the footsteps of the father who had abandoned him. Unlike Darnell, Keisha Johnson grew up surrounded by stability and love in neighboring Riverdale, the eldest of 4 children born to Robert and Patricia Johnson. Her childhood home was filled with laughter, music, and the constant encouragement to pursue her dreams. Robert, a respected deacon at First Baptist Church, and Patricia, who taught English at Riverdale High for 30 years, created an environment where education and service to others were paramount values. Family videos show a confident, smiling Keisha leading her siblings in backyard plays and neighborhood fundraisers for various causes. Her mother recalls how, at just 9 years old, Keisha announced her intention to become a nurse after witnessing an elderly neighbor receive compassionate care from a visiting nurse. This early calling never wavered. Throughout high school, she volunteered at Riverdale Community Hospital, reading to patients and assisting with non-medical tasks. After graduating as valedictorian in 2010, Keisha attended the prestigious Oakwood College of Nursing on a merit scholarship. Her clinical instructors noted her exceptional empathy and technical skill, qualities that would later make her a standout in the high-pressure environment of emergency medicine. Upon earning her BSN in 2014, she was immediately hired by Oakwood Memorial Hospital, where she quickly rose from new graduate to charge nurse in the emergency department within just 3 years, an almost unprecedented advancement that spoke to both her clinical excellence and leadership abilities. To their friends, colleagues, and social media followers, Darnell and Keisha represented relationship goals. Their Instagram account, @DarnellandKeisha, showcased a life that seemed perfectly balanced between professional achievement and personal joy. Photos of them in uniform, he in police blues, she in teal scrubs, alternated with images of romantic getaways and community volunteer work. Their annual Christmas card, featuring them in matching sweaters, became something friends looked forward to receiving. At department functions and hospital galas, they moved through the room with easy confidence, he with his arm protectively around her waist, she looking up at him with apparent adoration. Colleagues from both the police department and hospital often commented on how they seemed to understand each other's high-stress professions in ways that other couples couldn't. Their shared commitment to public service created a bond that appeared unbreakable. Even their occasional disagreements seemed healthy to observers, passionate discussions about politics or social issues that demonstrated their engagement with the world rather than any fundamental incompatibility. They met on a rainy Tuesday in April 2019, when Darnell rushed into the ER with the 14-year-old shooting victim. As Keisha efficiently stabilized the teen, Darnell watched, impressed by her calm under pressure. When the crisis passed, he asked her to coffee. She said yes, charmed by what she perceived as his protective nature and commitment to justice. The shift in Darnell's behavior began so gradually that Keisha barely noticed it. 6 months into their relationship, he started checking her phone while she showered, explaining it away as just making sure you're safe. By their first anniversary, he had installed a tracking app on her phone, so I always know where to find you if something happens. His concern about her late-night shifts initially seemed sweet, but soon he was calling the hospital repeatedly if she didn't answer texts immediately. When male patients or doctors complimented Keisha's work, Darnell would later question her about these interactions in detail. Who was that guy? What exactly did he say to you? Did you smile at him? These interrogations often lasted late into the night. According to Tanya Williams, Keisha's best friend since nursing school, Darnell began suggesting Keisha wear looser scrubs and minimal makeup to work, requests Keisha initially laughed off, but eventually complied with to avoid arguments. After they moved in together in 2020, Darnell's control extended to their home life. He installed security cameras in their living room and kitchen, ostensibly for safety, but effectively monitoring Keisha's movements. He began criticizing her friendships, particularly with Tanya, whom he called a bad influence. Family dinners with the Johnsons became less frequent, as Darnell claimed they were too judgmental of him. Slowly, Keisha's vibrant social life contracted until it primarily revolved around Darnell's schedule and preferences. Have you noticed similar controlling behaviors in relationships around you? Or perhaps in your own past relationships? These patterns often escalate gradually. Comment below with warning signs you believe people should watch for. Your insight could help someone recognize a dangerous situation before it's too late. Like and share this video to spread awareness. Behind her carefully maintained public image, Keisha was struggling. Text messages recovered from her phone revealed increasingly desperate conversations with Tanya Williams. "He went through my entire email account last night while I was sleeping," she wrote in January 2022. "When I confronted him, he said he had a right to know who I'm talking to. Am I crazy for thinking this isn't normal?" Another message from March read, "Had to leave a staff dinner early because D kept texting that I was being disrespectful by laughing too much with Dr. Reynolds. He was waiting in the parking lot when I came out." Tanya repeatedly urged Keisha to reconsider the relationship, but Keisha's responses showed her conflicted feelings. "You don't see how good he can be," she defended. "He's been through so much, and he's trying to change." According to her younger sister Aisha Johnson, Keisha had begun seeing a therapist secretly in April, paying cash to keep it off their shared insurance. The therapist, Dr. Maya Collins, later confirmed, with permission from Keisha's family, that they had been working on establishing boundaries and safety planning. Keisha had also convinced Darnell to attend 3 couples counseling sessions, though he refused to continue after the therapist suggested his jealousy was problematic. By summer, Keisha's texts to close friends showed increasing fear. "Sometimes the way he looks at me when he's angry makes me think he could really hurt me," she confided to Tanya just 2 weeks before her death. At the Oakwood Heights Police Department, Darnell's colleagues witnessed concerning behavior, but failed to intervene. Officer James Wilson later admitted seeing Darnell check Keisha's phone repeatedly during department barbecues, becoming visibly agitated if he found something questionable. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez recalled an incident where Darnell left in the middle of a shift after Keisha didn't answer his calls, returning an hour later claiming he needed to check on her. These red flags were dismissed as just how Darnell is about his woman. The hypermasculine culture of the department normalized possessive behavior as protective. Several officers even joked about Darnell being whipped rather than recognizing his controlling tendencies as potentially dangerous. His exemplary professional record, never using excessive force, de-escalating volatile situations effectively, created a cognitive dissonance that prevented colleagues from connecting his private behavior to potential violence. Even more troubling, 2 domestic disturbance calls to Darnell and Keisha's address in 2022 were handled informally by fellow officers who responded, with no official reports filed. What Darnell didn't know as he celebrated his birthday was that Keisha had finally decided to leave. Her browser history showed searches for apartments in neighboring Clayton County, outside Darnell's jurisdiction. Bank records revealed she had opened a separate account, gradually transferring small amounts that wouldn't trigger Darnell's attention. A draft email to her supervisor requested schedule changes and explained she would be relocating. Most telling was a text to her sister, sent the morning of the birthday party. "I found a place. Moving next Saturday while he's at the conference. Can you and Mom help? Don't tell anyone yet." Keisha had created an exit strategy, one she would never get to execute. For weeks, Keisha had meticulously planned Darnell's 35th birthday celebration, determined to make it special despite her private turmoil. According to her planner, found later in her locker at the hospital, she had reserved a private room at Savannah's, Darnell's favorite restaurant, 2 months in advance. She coordinated with his supervisor to ensure he would have the evening off and arranged for his mother and sisters to travel from Atlanta for the surprise. Text messages to friends showed her attention to detail. "Can you pick up the custom cake at 4? It has his badge number in the design." Another read, "Found old photos from his academy graduation for the memory board. Don't forget to bring yours." She had even purchased a new dress, navy blue, his favorite color, on her, and scheduled her shift to end early so she could set everything up. The final touch was a custom watch she had saved for months to afford, engraved with "To protect and serve, with love always" on the back, a gift that would later be found unwrapped in her purse at the crime scene. By 8 o'clock that evening, Savannah's private dining room buzzed with anticipation. 30 guests, a mix of police officers, hospital staff, family members, and childhood friends, hid behind tables decorated with blue and silver balloons. When Sergeant Rodriguez brought Darnell in under the pretense of a work dinner, the room erupted in cheers. Security footage shows his genuine surprise and delight as Keisha emerged from the crowd, throwing her arms around him. The first hours of the celebration unfolded perfectly. Darnell's mother, Loretta, gave a tearful toast about how proud she was of the man he'd become. Colleagues shared funny stories from his rookie days. The restaurant staff kept drinks flowing. Witnesses later confirmed Darnell had consumed at least 5 whiskeys by 10 o'clock, though he rarely drank heavily. Keisha moved through the room, ensuring everyone's needs were met, stopping occasionally to kiss Darnell's cheek or hold his hand. Photos from guests' phones show her radiant smile as she presented the cake, seemingly the picture of a devoted girlfriend with no indication of her plans to leave. Marcus Taylor arrived around 9:30, accompanying Keisha's cousin Janelle. At 28, Marcus had recently moved to Oakwood Heights from Chicago to take a position as a physical therapist at the same hospital where Keisha worked. Though they had met only twice before at staff orientations, they shared an easy professional rapport. Marcus brought a bottle of premium bourbon as a gift, which Darnell initially appreciated. When introducing Marcus to others, Janelle mentioned that he had played college basketball and recently volunteered to coach at the community center, the same center where Darnell occasionally mentored youth. According to multiple witnesses, Darnell's demeanor toward Marcus was cordial, if somewhat reserved, throughout the early evening. At 11:15, the DJ shifted from dinner music to dance tracks. Security footage shows Keisha initially dancing with her sister and female friends, while Darnell remained at the table with his police colleagues. When September by Earth, Wind and Fire began playing, a song Keisha had mentioned was her father's favorite, several guests formed a circle on the dance floor. Keisha danced briefly with her father, then with her brother-in-law, before Marcus entered the circle. Their interaction, captured clearly on the restaurant security cameras, lasted exactly 2 minutes and 20 seconds. They maintained a respectful distance, never touching beyond Marcus briefly taking her hand for a twirl. Their movements were playful rather than intimate, with Keisha laughing as Marcus demonstrated an exaggerated dance move from the 70s. Multiple witnesses confirmed there was nothing romantic or inappropriate about their interaction. Keisha's sister described it as the kind of casual dancing you'd do with any acquaintance at a party. Throughout the dance, Keisha glanced repeatedly toward Darnell's table, even waving to him once, seemingly unaware of the storm brewing in his mind. Officer Wilson later testified that he noticed Darnell's expression darken as he watched Keisha and Marcus dance. His entire body tensed up. He drained his whiskey and poured another without taking his eyes off them. Another colleague reported hearing Darnell mutter, "Who does this guy think he is?" though he initially played it off as a joke. At 11:42, security footage shows Darnell abruptly standing, knocking over his chair, and striding directly to the dance floor. He grabbed Keisha's arm mid-laugh, pulling her away from the circle. Though the music partially drowned their exchange, lip-reading experts later determined he said, "We need to talk. Now." Keisha's smile immediately faded, replaced by what her sister described as the look she always got when walking on eggshells around him. Darnell led Keisha toward the exit, his grip visibly tight on her upper arm. When she attempted to explain something to him, witnesses observed him cutting her off with a sharp whisper. Outside in the parking lot, restaurant staff reported hearing raised voices. One server, taking a break near the back entrance, overheard Darnell say, "You're making a fool of me at my own party." When Keisha tried to return inside alone, security cameras captured Darnell blocking her path. After a brief but intense exchange, she reluctantly followed him to his car. Her last words to the gathering, called over her shoulder to her confused sister, were simply, "I'll call you tomorrow. Sorry about this." The 12-minute drive from Savannah's restaurant to their home in Oakwood Heights was captured partially by traffic cameras and a gas station security feed. Footage shows Darnell's black SUV traveling at precisely the speed limit, a detail investigators later noted as evidence of his controlled rage rather than impulsive fury. A driver who pulled alongside them at a red light reported seeing a heated argument in progress, with Keisha gesturing emphatically while Darnell stared straight ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Phone records indicate Keisha attempted to call her sister twice during the drive, but both calls went unanswered as Janelle was still at the restaurant, unaware of the escalating danger. A final text message from Keisha's phone at 11:58 read simply, "He's really angry. Never seen him like this." According to their home security system, they arrived at 12:04. Neighbors reported hearing car doors slam and Keisha's voice saying, "You're completely overreacting," as they entered the house. The front door closed at 12:06, sealing Keisha's fate. What happened inside the house was reconstructed through forensic evidence, Darnell's eventual confession, and the partial recording captured by their living room security camera before Darnell disabled it. The footage shows Keisha entering first, removing her jacket, and placing her purse on the entryway table. Darnell follows, slamming the door and immediately continuing their argument. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone," he says, his voice unnaturally calm. "Dancing with him like that." Keisha turns, visibly exasperated. "It was just dancing, Darnell. At your birthday party that I spent weeks planning. I danced with my dad too. Are you jealous of him?" The camera captures Darnell moving closer, pointing his finger in her face. "Don't you dare turn this around. I saw how you looked at him. Everyone saw it." What follows is a rapid escalation as Keisha, perhaps emboldened by her secret plans to leave, finally stands her ground. "This is exactly why I can't do this anymore," she says. "The constant accusations, the jealousy, the control. I'm a nurse, not your possession." Darnell's expression changes at these words. "What do you mean you can't do this anymore?" The camera catches Keisha taking a deep breath before saying the words that would trigger the final explosion. "I'm leaving you, Darnell. I've been planning to move out next weekend." At this point, Darnell lunges forward, and the camera feed cuts off. He later admitted to ripping it from the wall. What followed, according to his confession, was Keisha retreating to the bedroom where he kept his gun safe. Whether she went there to escape or because she feared for her safety remains unknown. Darnell followed, entered the combination, and removed his service weapon. Back in the living room, as Keisha reportedly begged him to calm down, he fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The gunshots jolted awake the Petersons next door, who immediately called 911 at 12:17. "There were 3 shots, very close together," Mrs. Peterson told the dispatcher. "It came from the Washington house, the police officer's house." In the background of the call, Mr. Peterson can be heard saying, "There was shouting before the shots. A woman was crying." Officers James Wilson and Terrence Bryant arrived at 12:23, approaching the house with caution given that the suspect was one of their own. Through the front window, they observed Darnell sitting motionless on the couch, staring at Keisha's body on the floor. Following protocol for an armed suspect, they announced their presence and ordered him to exit with his hands visible. Body camera footage shows Darnell emerging slowly, his white shirt stained with blood, his expression vacant. "She was going to leave me," he said as Officer Wilson handcuffed him. "She was dancing with him because she was going to leave me." He offered no resistance during the arrest. Inside, paramedics pronounced Keisha dead at 12:32. The medical examiner would later determine that 2 of the 3 bullets had struck her heart, causing death within minutes. Her phone was found shattered against the wall, and the birthday gift, the engraved watch, remained unwrapped in her purse by the door. The investigation, led by Detective Sarah Ramirez from neighboring Clayton County to avoid conflicts of interest, uncovered a digital trail that told the story Keisha could no longer share. Her laptop contained apartment listings with saved contact information and email drafts to potential landlords. Her secondary bank account, opened 3 months prior, had accumulated nearly $4,000, carefully transferred in small amounts to avoid detection. Most damning were the text messages recovered from her damaged phone, documenting escalating control and fear. Darnell's devices revealed surveillance apps tracking Keisha's movements and monitoring her communications, along with search histories, including phrases like, "How to tell if your girlfriend is cheating," and tracking someone without them knowing. The gun safe in their bedroom contained not only Darnell's service weapon, but also a hidden journal where Keisha had documented incidents of emotional abuse dating back 18 months. In the aftermath, the silence surrounding Darnell and Keisha's relationship shattered. Tanya Williams provided investigators with over a year of text conversations showing Keisha's growing fear. "She would call me sometimes just to stay on the line while she walked to her car after late shifts," Tanya testified. She was afraid of him, but also afraid of what reporting him might do to his career. Colleagues from the hospital revealed witnessing concerning interactions, Darnell appearing unexpectedly during Keisha's shifts, checking her location, and once confronting a male doctor who had complimented her work. The head nurse admitted noticing bruises on Keisha's arms twice in the past year, which Keisha had dismissed as accidents during workout sessions. Most troubling were the revelations from fellow officers. Sergeant Rodriguez acknowledged that domestic disturbance calls to their address had been handled informally, out of professional courtesy. "We thought we were helping a brother officer work through some relationship issues," she testified, her voice breaking. "We never imagined it would end this way. We should have done more." Darnell Washington was charged with first-degree murder on June 15, 2022. Despite his initial confession, he later changed his plea to not guilty, with his defense attorney arguing temporary insanity triggered by extreme emotional distress upon learning Keisha planned to leave him. The trial began in January 2023, lasting 3 weeks. Prosecutors presented the extensive evidence of premeditation and control, while the defense portrayed Darnell as a dedicated officer who snapped under the pressure of perceived betrayal. Character witnesses from the police department spoke of his professional accomplishments, though cross-examination revealed their awareness of his possessive tendencies. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict. At sentencing, Judge Michael Thornton rejected defense pleas for leniency based on Darnell's service record. "Your oath to protect and serve the public makes this betrayal of trust even more egregious," he stated, sentencing Darnell to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 30 years. As he was led away, Darnell showed no emotion, while Keisha's family embraced, their long fight for justice finally over. The tragedy of Keisha Johnson's death lies not just in its violence, but in its preventability. Multiple warning signs went unaddressed by those who could have intervened. Darnell's need to constantly know Keisha's whereabouts, his monitoring of her phone and communications, and his isolation of her from friends and family were classic control tactics. His jealousy of male colleagues, insistence on changing her appearance, and criticism of her relationships were dismissed as personality quirks rather than dangerous red flags. Perhaps most telling was the community's response to these behaviors. Friends normalized his possessiveness as protectiveness. Colleagues joked about his jealousy, and even law enforcement failed to properly document domestic disturbance calls. This collective blind spot created the perfect environment for escalation from control to deadly violence. Dr. Amara Wilson, domestic violence expert at Oakwood University, explains that controlling behavior often masquerades as care. When someone says they're tracking your location because they worry about you, that's not love, it's control, she states. Healthy relationships are built on trust, not surveillance. Early warning signs include partners who isolate you from support networks, monitor your communications, make accusations of infidelity, control your appearance or finances, and show extreme jealousy. Dr. Wilson emphasizes that abuse escalates gradually. By the time physical violence occurs, psychological control is already firmly established. The earlier you recognize these patterns, the safer you'll be. Most importantly, she notes that domestic violence affects all communities and professions, even those sworn to protect others. If you recognize these patterns in your relationship, reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. They offer confidential support, safety planning, and local resources. Remember, the most dangerous time is when leaving, so professional guidance is crucial. Document incidents, save money secretly, and create an exit strategy with expert help. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and share to raise awareness. Could you recognize these warning signs in relationships around you? Subscribe for more stories that could save lives. Remember, speaking up about concerning behavior isn't interfering. It's potentially preventing a tragedy like Keisha's from happening again.